Goosebumps. 40 episodes of Goosebumps. 20 hours of Goosebumps.
Mom! Dad!
You know, throughout the years, a lot of people have asked me, Fred, why the scarf? And I always tell them the same thing. Why don't you mind your own f***ing business, pal?
The Halloween season is once again upon us, my friends. I've said it before and I'll say it again. I absolutely love this time of year. I had a lot of fun last October talking about fun Halloween specials. And you all watched Over the Garden Wall, right? I know you did. But if you didn't, don't turn around. Because it may not be likely, but it's not impossible that I am right behind you. But I'm ready for this year's festivities. I love all that spooky stuff, man. I could honestly make a whole video talking about why I love Halloween and, more specifically, the horror genre so much. I mean, almost all my videos cover horror-related topics, most of the games we stream are horror, and the Halloween season is my favorite time of the year. It's also apparently the only time I upload any videos, it seems. How are those videos doing, by the way? Alright, fine. I'll take my 10 dedicated subscribers and go have a party over here. The rest of you can have fun talking about your Japanese cartoons, see if I care. But I mean, I do kind of care. I put a lot of work into my videos too, you know. In any case, I think it sounds fun to make a sort of retrospective video talking about my experience with the horror genre in movies, games, books, all of it. It's the season of getting spooked. So sit back, relax, and let's begin.
This is a night.
This is the night
I was created for. I'm gonna put on my best disguise and go knocking on everybody's door. This is the night.
This is the night
I'm gonna hit the street. If every night was a night to go trick or treat,
Trick or treat,
wouldn't it be sweet?
trick or treat,
Just a trick or treat.
trick or treat,
Wouldn't it be sweet?
trick or treat.
Just a trick or treat.
Growing up, I had a lot of the same childhood trauma-inducing experiences a lot of people my age did. I watched the spooky episodes of Courage the Cowardly Dog, and I got scared by the werewolf in Harry Potter. Funnily enough, though, I remember one of the scarier moments for me came from a cartoon that wasn't meant to be scary. The snowman from this one Mickey Mouse cartoon really scared me for some reason, and I had a lot of recurring nightmares with him in it. There were actually a lot of non-horror things that scared me when I was a kid. I had a pretty religious upbringing, so I definitely wasn't out there playing Silent Hill or Resident Evil like everyone else my age was. I was either playing Mario 64 and getting terrified by or watching my dad play Ocarina of Time and peeing myself watching him fight But I didn't care how scared I was. I'd still play Mario 64. I'd still make my dad replay Ocarina of Time at least once a year. Why? What was it that kept me going back to things I knew could scare me? Well, in Mario and Zelda's case, those were beloved games from Nintendo that had far more appeal to me beyond some of their scarier moments. But for the actually scary things I saw growing up, I didn't yet know why I liked them so much. If we fast forward a few years, I remember my dad took me to a game store to pick up Majora's Mask, which was only a few years old at the time. After watching him play Ocarina of Time so much, I think both he and I felt pretty confident about what we were getting into. I don't know what he thought about it, but my goodness.
NSFK is not safe for kids.
I wouldn't call Majora's Mask a horror game, but it's definitely got more than its fair share of horrific moments. Unlike Ocarina of Time, I only watched my dad play this game once, twice at the most. I can look back nowadays and appreciate Majora's Mask for the masterpiece that it is, but it terrified me as a child. I can still remember lying awake at night, hearing that clock tower bell toll, and seeing those eyes every time I closed mine. So what about when I got older? Well, like any 12-year-old does, I eventually turned 13, and that meant I could see PG-13 movies now. Wow! So my cousin and I decided to use our newfound courage to see the latest PG-13 horror movie at the time, The Woman in Black. Oh, we were scared. We were horrified. We figured we had jumped headfirst into shark-infested waters, and we loved it. We tried to see almost every PG-13 horror movie we could, regardless of its quality. I was also beginning to dip my toes into horror video games at the time. I had a blast playing games like Amnesia, Slender, and many of those other games that were popular on the internet at the time. The internet actually helped a lot getting me into the horror scene. I loved the feeling of physically cringing with suspense as I watched YouTubers play Outlast or reading creepypasta stories late at night on my iPod. Things like that inspired me to be braver and to try to find more intense horror movies to watch. That's how my cousin and I spent the night at a campout sleeping in a van watching The Conjuring. It was so cool. As I got older, I invested more and more of my time with the horror genre. I got sucked into the Five Nights at Freddy's craze at first like everyone else did, and if you ignore all the messy lore, I think there's still something really eerie about that first game. Nowadays, there's rarely a horror movie in theaters I don't go watch, rarely a horror game I'm not excited for. So we've covered a pretty broad history of my experiences with the horror genre, but I haven't quite answered the question yet. Why do I love horror? I think we'll start with one of the most obvious and probably common reasons. The thrill. I am by no means an adrenaline junkie. You'll never catch me bungee jumping or skydiving or anything like that, but I do enjoy the rush of fear when enjoying a good piece of horror media. I was recently watching The Night House, and that film had some very tense scenes that truly had me on the edge of my seat. I found myself holding my breath, clutching the sides of my seat, and trying feverishly not to make a noise. When all that tension pays off in a satisfying scare, it's just the best. You may not want to admit it, but it's fun getting a good scare every now and then. Being scared is fun.
You don't see
Oh, she knows exactly where you are, dude!
She's too tall for that! Ow! Ow! Hey! 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 Stop it!
Are you finished?
No!
I believe horror is great for telling emotional stories. When a story is full of fear, terror, and dread, having quieter, more sincere moments can really help endear the audience to the characters in the story. I love The Conjuring and its sequel because this is something they do really well. Those movies have a lot of horrific themes and imagery, but they take the time to show us what these characters are fighting for and what's important to them. I especially like the scene in the sequel. This family has been endlessly tormented by an evil spirit, and Ed decides to lift their spirits by playing the guitar and singing to them. It's nothing big, nothing groundbreaking, just a simple reminder that life isn't all bad.
Only fools rush in. Thank you. Hey, don't laugh now. But I can't help falling in love with you.
When these things take the time to be real, to be genuine, it makes the nice things nicer, and the scary parts scarier. Of course, being someone who consumes so much horror, it's genuinely hard for anything to scare me anymore.
They can't get inside. Oh, Javla! Fun! You scared the bollocks out of me!
But that doesn't mean I can't appreciate something that is scary, especially good monster designs. I love a good monster in my spooky stuff. I hate this recent trend of good creature design being wasted in movies and games because it's actually all in the character's head or something like that. Do you guys mind if I go on a bit of a tangent here? Of course you don't, no one watches my videos. I hate psychological horror. I hate it because I love good psychological horror. Good psychological horror is a study of the human psyche, of what happens when something horrific reveals the parts of ourselves we don't want anyone to see, be those things cowardice, malice, or insanity. Psychological horror is not an excuse to throw a bunch of weird imagery at the audience just to have the character blink and have it disappear. So many horror movies and games have horrific, ghastly things in them, only for the characters to realize, oh, there wasn't anything to be afraid of, it was all in my head. What, that thing? Oh, you don't gotta be scared of him, he's a real nice guy once you realize he isn't real. It makes it hard for something to leave a lasting impact if all you can take away from it was, so none of it was real. Going back to monster design, I think the baby from Resident Evil 8 is a great way to combine psychological horror with good monster design in a way that isn't wasteful. When Ethan finds out that his baby is being used in some kind of weird, ritualistic experiment by these insane people, it makes him feel like he's failed to protect his family. time and time again. When you see this baby monster that calls you Dada, it works both as a terrifying monster that leaves a lasting impression, but also as a manifestation of what Ethan fears may become of his daughter if he fails to save her. And yeah, it's revealed that you were mostly hallucinating during this section of the game, but the baby can still kill you, meaning that even if you weren't actually getting chased by a giant fetus in that basement, there was at least some kind of monstrous threat hunting you down there. And it's probably still there to this day. I think monsters are really cool ways for artists to explore the things that scare them. Good monster design is crucial to scaring your audience, and I know that horror is subjective, but I prefer the kind of monsters that are so different and unique. The kind where just looking at it raises a million questions about its nature. I don't much care for the gangly humanoid monsters that are all over the place nowadays. More of this stuff, please. I watch a lot of horror movies. I play a lot of horror games. I love horror. As you can tell by how messy this video is, it's hard to put into one sentence why I love the horror genre, but I do. I know it's not everyone's go-to genre, but I'm going to challenge you, yes, you, to either to put that thing down and listen. I'm challenging you to either watch a horror movie, play a horror game, or read a horror story that you never have before this October. By the way, as a huge fan of this genre, I can safely say that a good chunk of this stuff sucks. So if you're unsure what to watch, /play, /read, /whatever, don't be afraid to ask for recommendations from friends or in the comments below. My name's The Missing Letter, and don't be afraid to get spooky this year. Happy Halloween.